Welcome, everyone, to episode 2 of Morning Briefing. I am your host, Jean Marciniak, and I am here with my co-host, Mark Getman. How are you doing, Mark?
Doing good, thank you.
So, since this is our official first episode, I did an intro episode for this podcast before, but the audience really doesn't know who we are, so I figured we'd just give them a quick kind of brief on, both of our histories with the military and where we are now.
Sure.
So I will leave it to you first, because actually I'll save the best for last, because you have a bigger military record than me. So my name is Jean Marciniak. I have been with the New York State Guard, I believe, between 2004 and I think I discharged in 2012. So during that time, I was activated for a multitude of operations, from the New York National Guard Surf P team, from activations during Hurricane Irene. I wasn't activated for Hurricane Sandy, kind of missed that right at that time that it was popping up, but I moved at that point. And yeah, there was a whole bunch of activations. I am currently the admin for StateDefenseForce.com, and I've kind of been doing that for, since the website started. But if you guys are familiar, I actually started this in 2004 with another site called Home Guard Armory, which basically did the same exact thing that StateDefenseForce.com does. It was just, I changed the name mainly because I got the domain name StateDefenseForce.com, so I changed the name of the website. So that's all about me. I'm sure as the audience tunes in for our episodes, they'll learn a little bit more about me, but I'm going to hand it off to you because I know you have a larger military background than me, so leave it off to you, Mark.
Sure. I'm not going to go that far back, but I'll primarily stay with my time with the New York Guard. I was in the New York Guard, our State Defense Force, from 2002 to 2006. Started off as a corporal, went to sergeant, and then was promoted to a lieutenant, and then eventually decided to go into the National Guard and had to go full circle, enlisted as a specialist, and 25 uniform, which is signal support technician, and 6 months afterwards I got into I was direct commissioned as a chaplain candidate. So I was a chaplain candidate, and which was never my intention anyway, but I was a chaplain candidate for 6 years, from 2006 to about 2012, actually a little bit longer, for about 8 years. And my main role was chaplain candidate, but my additional duties was public affairs representative when I was in the 258 Field Artillery and 3142 Aviation Battalion. Left the National Guard in 2014 and came back to the New York Guard as the assistant public affairs director, assistant to myself. They put me in the slot, and over the past couple of years, I've been moved up to deputy director of recruiting, retention, and public affairs. And recent restructuring, I am now the director of public affairs, New York Guard. Still in the New York Guard, and hopefully I'll get promoted maybe next year or the year after. And that's what I do for military-wise. Civilian stuff, that's a whole nother day. So,
what's your current rank in the New York Guard?
I am a captain.
Oh, okay. And I don't think I mentioned it before, but I exited the New York Guard as a E4 specialist, so we got a kind of a nice diversity right there. You got enlisted and officer. So since we are actually on the New York Guard, and both of us have been in the New York Guard, New York Guard's been in the news quite a bit. I posted some news on the website that you guys have been activated to respond to the coronavirus outbreak that's been going on.
Yes, our official activation began March. I think the first wave was March 7th and 8th, and currently we were at 75 service members on state active duty throughout the state.
Oh, okay. From the pictures that I posted, it looks like you guys doing a multitude of things, from logistics, supply. I see New York Guard soldiers in the pictures here donning PPE.
Yes, I think they were taught how to properly wear them, and then they were then going to teach others. And but that mission has moved on to the National Guard civil support teams. They're handling that now to teach other military forces how to wear the PPE. But yeah, they were brought in to teach them how to do that, and their primary missions now are admin, assisting in the joint operations centers, the jocks, the command centers. They're doing warehousing, loading, unloading of the sanitizer that's come in. And what else are they doing? One was dual tasked to do public affairs up in Syracuse. Yeah, and primarily working TOC operations, JOC operations, joint operations centers, which is a JOC, and admin work, and anything else that they need us to do. We're not out there testing people for viruses.
Yeah, I've noticed that through the news that they were saying that the National Guard and the State Guard are more for like a support capacity.
The National Guard, well, the National Guard are out there they helped build the hospital in the Javits Center.
Oh, wow.
They're bringing supplies, they're distributing food. The New York Guard is not doing much with the general public. We're doing warehousing and taking in, and we're staying within the Joint Task Force areas. So we were really not interacting so much with the public.
So you mentioned that the New York Guard is around 75 currently on active duty. How many National Guard are on active duty?
National Guard, the last numbers was about 2,200.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's a lot.
Yes. So this is the largest activation, I would say, since 9/11. And yes, 2,400 personnel on mission across the state. Includes Army and Air National Guard, New York Guard, State Defense Force, and the Naval Militia.
Ah, okay. Now, I've seen, when you were mentioning before about the JOC, I do see a couple of photos of New York Guard along with Army National Guard in the Joint Operations area. So yeah, it looks like you guys are working hand in hand with the Army National Guard in those roles that you were mentioning.
Yes. Sorry, one of my former soldiers who was public affairs, he's recently been commissioned, and he's now giving briefings in the JOC. He's giving briefings to National Guard officers up in Camp Smith.
Oh, wow. That's that's definitely exciting. I see a whole bunch of new State Guard in Syracuse. So it's definitely you guys. They definitely have you guys doing a lot of cool missions here. So that's actually really exciting. So we right now have 75 New York Guard, and it's March 29th, the day we're recording this. Do you foresee that number rising?
Currently, our numbers are staying steady. Currently, there's no request for additional New York Guard. It may actually decrease as more National Guard come on, because they're coming on Title 32, so they're getting paid federally. This way, it will save the states some money, because there's other stuff that they may need us for outside of COVID-19. So they're keeping us at this number right now, and the way it's best way to explain it is, a sports bench. We have a shorter bench than the National Guard and Army National Guard and Air National Guard, so they're gonna want to utilize their bench first before they use ours.
Ah, okay. Yeah, and it makes sense because you're getting federal money versus state, and the state needs, well, every dollar can get its hands on at this point due to this national emergency.
Right.
So we mentioned the New York Guard, and but there has been some interesting news coming out of the tri-state area because tri-state, if you guys are not familiar, encompasses New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And apparently, the Connecticut Foot Guard, which is a state defense force, just with a different name, has been activated. It looks like they are assisting in mobile field hospital, configuring and staging the mobile field hospitals for the Connecticut Department of Health. So that's actually really interesting. Have the New York Guard medical assets been utilized too?
Our 244 medical group, medical command, medical group, I guess we want to call it. There, yeah, we have some on duty. Not too many because they want the medical professionals to do the civilian work. We needed more in the civilian capacity. I think we're initially doing some physicals or doing some initial intake, but there's no call up for our medics or actually I stand corrected. They called up people who are certified EMTs and medics. So we have a few.
Oh, okay. I've noticed that's becoming, especially during this crisis, because the public health facilities are in desperate need for doctors, EMTs, nurses. So I know California State Guard, which just recently changed their name from the California State Military Reserve. So now they're called the California State Guard. They're still the State Defense Force, just different name change. They have, I believe I just saw the news today that they just activated. Well, they activated a whole bunch of units for the California State Guard. However, they have taken their military units, their medical unit, and attached it directly into a California Army National Guard unit. And the article reads from the Defense Department's press article. It says that this is a historic COVID-19 mission for California State Guard, and the colonel in charge, who is a deputy state surgeon, she's a colonel in the California State Guard, said, "This is something different, something historic. This is the first time maybe since the Vietnam War the State Guard's been called up for something like this. In less than 24 hours, they got together and are out on mission." So this is really something, because I've been noticing like a lot of state defense forces nationwide are being called up and activated for this. Even state defense forces that are less active, like the Mississippi State Guard, I just saw some news today about them.
Oh, I haven't heard. I mean, I know Puerto Rico, they're called up and they're very intertwined with their National Guard down there. And yes, I read about California and New York, of course, and Texas.
Besides the medical aspects, what do you think that the National Guard is looking for the state defense forces? What role and what capacity do you see a really need for?
I would see to help staff admin, people with medical background, people who know how to maybe, I wouldn't say triage, but who have a medical knowledge that they could tell, hey, this is a common cold, or maybe they understand the terminology better and they could teach how to wear PPE properly, because medical professionals know how to wear that properly, and they could probably show others how to wear it properly, instead of taking Sergeant Joe and teaching Sergeant Joe to teach Private Smith. Sergeant Joe may not really know. It's just that he had a 30-minute, lesson on it. And meanwhile, you have doctors and lawyers who've been doing, wearing it 20 plus years and, know how it's supposed to be worn properly. I see them doing that, maintaining field hospitals or setting up field hospitals, knowing what supplies they need, medical supplies. So it all depends on the state of what they want them to do.
Since you've been mentioning about admin, I've been looking on the website here, I posted a news on the Virginia State Defense Force. They have also been activated. It looks like they're assisting the National Guard in medical logistics, administration. They also mention here interoperable communication. Can you explain more about interoperable communications? Is that more like the MERN mission that the New York Guard's doing, which is like an emergency military radio network?
That could be. It could be their state version of their MERN, the Military Emergency Radio Network MERN. That could be their version of how they would communicate between unit to unit in case comms went down.
Okay.
Everybody has their own different names.
Yeah, I've noticed. There's no like. Unfortunately, like the National Guard have a all similar playbook because they are the U.S. Army Reserve or a component of the U.S. Army, and they all have the same schools. But in state defense forces, each state defense force is separated from the other state defense force, so one does something different than the other ones. That's why I guess California, Texas, Georgia, and I believe New York, you guys are deeply, actively involved, especially with the flooding. I think there was flooding in New York last year that you guys were on active duty for.
Yes, Lake Ontario, upstate New York, and that is projected to be another mission again. And
Wow.
yes, they had. Last time they had 90. They were somewhere on duty for at least 30 to 60 days plus.
Oh wow, 2 months.
Yes.
Oh wow, what kind of missions were they doing? I noticed there was flooding. I noticed they were filling sandbags. So, like, was it you guys were directly embedded into National Guard units?
We were the primary on that. We were the primary on that. We worked along. They worked alongside National Guard, Army National Guard, Air National Guard, Naval Militia. The Naval Militia actually had some of their boats up in the areas to bring soldiers from one point to the other. So we were the primary force up there and working with Army National Guard and not so many Air National Guard, but mostly Army National Guard. But yeah, that was a joint operation, joint task force, Ontario. I think I forgot the name of it.
How large was that mission? How many soldiers did it
I
take
don't think
part?
they had as many as they have now. Maybe there were probably 50 New York Guard. I don't remember the numbers exactly, but there was a good number.
And you had you have 75 now. How many? What's the capacity of New York Guard? Like, how many troops are altogether in New York Guard?
Our authorized strength is 600. Yeah, we're authorized 600. We have about 450 to 500 that are state active deployable. Others that aren't deployable for some reason, reasons or another. So we have at least 90%, 95% are deployable.
Oh wow, okay. That's definitely is going to come in handy if the situation gets worse in terms of the numbers that are affecting New York. Because New York, from what I understand, watching the news, is I believe the largest concentrated area of infections. I believe.
Yes, thank you for reminding me.
You're not in New York directly, I think, right? You're like in outside New York City, right?
I am on Long Island, so I am about 35 minutes without traffic from Manhattan.
Okay, that's good. So you're in some sort of, well, at least further away from the.
Suburbs, right. So Brooklyn and Queens, New York City, Staten Island, the Bronx, that's all considered New York City. Where the outbreak started is in Westchester, which is about 45 minutes away from me. We're talking about without traffic, but realistically, when there's traffic, it could take me an hour to get to Westchester, and it could take me an hour to get to Manhattan, or an hour and a half. Add that and traffic an hour and 20 to get to Westchester. So, but I am about 20 miles away, 20, 25, about 25 miles away from Manhattan. And that's where the majority of cases are happening in New York. They're calling it New York City, which means Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, New York City, and I'm in Nassau County, and we also have about 3,000 cases now.
Oh wow, okay.
I am staying indoors as much as I can.
Yeah, I'm in Virginia right now, and I'm taking the. I mean, they didn't shut down my state. They I think are limiting people to. I believe you can't be in a building with more than 10 people. So we decided to just hunker down in the house and wait for this thing to kind of, I don't know, gets what's the word I'm looking for? Get more contained, or just things to calm down quite a bit. Because every day it's like, I remember seeing last night. This was less than 24 hours ago. We had 124,000 cases. Last night, this was like after midnight, I checked, and it's now less than 24 hours. It's 8 o'clock in the evening the next day, and we're at 140,000. So I feel like it's just like going up in leaps and bounds.
Yes. So
we're at for Virginia. We're at 890 as of 8:30 on the East Coast on the 29th. I'm trying to see where California is, because I know the California State Guard was activated weeks ago, mainly because I was having a chat with their commanding general, and he was mentioning that they just activated him and units in the California State Guard. I'm trying to find California. Where is California? They're probably going to be in the thousands. Yeah, they're at 5,800. So even at 5,800, you guys in New York are way above them. I think the closest one is 13,000 New Jersey. That's what do you feel like that it's kind of ballooning in New York rather than other parts of the country? Is it everybody's, well, since it's one of the largest cities in the country, but do you feel it's that?
I think because it's so highly densely populated, all the people using mass transportation, the subways, it's hard to explain. It's hard to understand why, because everybody's right on top of each other. It could be a multitude of reasons, and it just nobody knows. Nobody can give a definite answer.
It looks like that I could foresee more activations and more utilization of the National Guard and State Guard forces, mainly because the numbers are just only going up, and from what I've been seeing on the news is the request for more and more assistance.
Yeah, it depends on the states. I mean, some states have a smaller National Guard than others, but some states don't even have a state guard, so it's just it's hard to say. It depends. If they're using federal funds, then they'll want to stick with their National Guard troops. But if they're using state funds, then they'll probably use their state guards as well.
I'm kind of curious. So, since you guys were activated last year for the flooding, and now you're activated for the COVID-19, what are you guys doing that has the National Guard utilizing you more than, let's say, other state guards or other state defense forces like the Mississippi State Guard, which I do see in the news once every year, or other state defense forces that are not as active?
We're constantly doing training. We're training them for forklift operators, and we're training them for chainsaw operators, and we're training them to be commo operators and general soldiers. And when the call is made, hey, we need assistance, we're ready, and people show up and they do a good job, and they say, hey, New York Guard was there when we needed. We're going to call them again, and we're visible. They see us out there. believe it or not, they see our pictures too. They see that we're at National Guard events. I'm always at National Guard events covering stuff for the National Guard. So they see us out there. They see pictures of us going, and we don't disappoint. So they say, hey, you guys want to be useful? This is what we need you to learn. Okay, we'll shift mission and change and train in what you want us to be ready for, and they just see we're dependable.
So it's really so that basically that's what you guys did. You went to the National Guard and say, "Hey, what do you guys need from us?" And they told you, and you guys did it.
Well, they said, where do you need us? What areas do you need us on? We used to have the MERN mission, and not the MERN mission, sorry, the CBRN mission, that. And they said, okay, that's no longer your mission. And some were disappointed about it. They said, okay, you're all generalists. You're all going to learn how to be forklift operators, how to be chainsaw operators, how to be, what do they call it? Point of distribution pod managers, point of distribution managers, logistics, deal with logistics, admin. We need job support. We need you guys to be primarily sandbaggers, laborers. Those of you who can't lift sandbags, you're going to be, how about we have you in the jock, so then we could then keep you in the office and put the National Guard out, doing the sandbagging. So they gave options for those who were a little bit too old to do that type of physical work, but they said, okay, this is what your mission essential tasks are. METL, mission essential task list, METL. So they kind of shifted focus and said, okay, this is what we want. And we said, okay, Roger, got it. And that's where we're going.
I feel like a lot of state defense forces caught on to that. Maybe you guys were the reason why, because I keep seeing it, like California, they're very active with their National Guard. I know they actually have a detachment of MPs, military police, that were certified, and I believe their 9-to-5 job was to do security at Los Alamos. I posted a news article about that, I remember. And the Georgia State Defense Force, I believe, focuses a lot on the medical capacity. I know they do search and rescue. So I feel like they're doing exactly what you guys are doing. Going to the National Guard is like, hey, what do you need from us? And we'll do it. One interesting thing that just popped up, I believe it was a couple of months ago, was Georgia State Defense Force has a unit called OPFOR. And apparently it stands for Opposing Forces. And this was really interesting. I posted this in August 2018, and it basically National Guard, Army National Guard troops that are going to be deployed to Afghanistan or overseas, they have to go through urban training, doing close quarter combat, and they needed an opposing force. So instead of using another National Guard unit, they are using Georgia State Defense Force troops, and they are basically acting as opposing forces to the National Guard. And from what I've been hearing is they're actively used. Like, their actual entire mission is just doing that because they're so oftenly used. The National Guard utilizes them so often that they actually have just a unit devoted to just that.
Yeah, I think New York, at one point, New York Guard did that years ago.
Oh.
And it all goes according to the state's tag. Each state's adjutant general and what role they want their state defense forces to do. It actually goes higher to that. It actually goes more to the governor and his advisors or whoever, because New York, as you know, used to be we used to have an armed force, New York Guard, up until the late 70s, early 80s. And they would actually, during annual training, they would actually train on the 1911, yeah. The 1911, they were trained on, when it was 1911, and then they would switch to the Beretta. And by the time they switched, they pulled the guns from the New York Guard. So, yeah, there's states that used to do OPFOR. New York probably was one of them in the 80s. And California, I read up, they actually qualify every year. So it all depends on what the governor of that state wants them to do, what they want to allow them to do, and what they see their role to be.
Texas, I think there was a public release released, what was this? It was a couple of days ago on March 28th. They activated, I don't know the number for Texas, I'm still trying to communicate with their PAO, but they did activate a contingent of National Guard and State Guard, and their capabilities that they're putting out into the field are for medical support, communication support, infrastructure maintenance, logistics, and transportation. So it's definitely what we're going to be seeing over the next couple of weeks is more and more National Guard, more and more State Guard and State Defense Force being activated to respond to this national emergency.
Look, I think New York has a total numbers combined is 10,000. I think it's gonna. I don't think they're gonna call up all 10,000. Plus, you have units that are deployed right now too, so you have to discount them. You can't count them as the figures that are available here, But yeah, I don't think it's going to get to the point that they're going to activate all 10,000. But let's hope not.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope this kind of this national emergency kind of comes to a close sooner rather than later. Mainly because I don't know about you, but I'm getting I'm getting a little what is that word that people use? Is not
cabin fever.
Cabin fever. Yeah, I'm ready there.
Yeah, I went out today. I had to go out today. I had to go and just one of my post office is open on Sunday here for a few hours, so I had to go to the post office, and I got shoes and stuff boots donated for our soldiers. I wanted to mail them out, and UPS was closed, FedEx was closed. I'm like, okay, I gotta go during the week. As I was out yesterday too, I also had to go small food shopping, and I'll be in for the rest of the week, a couple of days, and then probably Wednesday I'll go out for a few hours. I just have to get out. And people ask me, "Are you you're working?" I said, "Yes, I'm working." I'm not sure if I told you as well. I do background investigations for a contract background investigator. So the company I work for, we have the contract with the government, and I do the background investigations for people who need a secret. I do top secret and higher. So anybody who needs top secret clearance. And primarily my work is typing my reports at home, making phone calls at home, but I'd have to go face-to-face to meet the people to do the one-on-one interviews with the references and the individual and they've actually gotten guidance, okay, do everything telephonically now. So I'm stuck in my house, nothing else for me to do, so I still got work. I'm calling people in Minnesota and Michigan and Boston, Work goes on. Life goes on. Look, I'm still working, so that's why I can still hop on one computer, and I get calls constantly with I'm dealing with phone calls all day with National Guard, with back and forth with the Joint Forces Headquarters Public Affairs, and my teams, and so it's even though we're volunteer, and those of us, the majority of us aren't on SAD. We're still spending hours and hours doing stuff behind the scenes. So we're still here.
And one thing that I wanted to kind of end the podcast with is there was an act that actually a law that was being proposed in Congress. It was the H.R. 6041, and it was supported by the National Guard Association of the United States, as well as the State Guard Association of the United States that works for State Defense Forces. And the act was getting all types of support, and the act actually focuses on, and I'm trying to read here, the ability to deduct unreimbursed work expenses as tax deductions, and it applies to drill, travel costs, and uniform purchases. So I guess when you're doing your taxes, if you're a State Defense Force soldier, you can put down travel expenses, uniform purchases, things like that on your taxes, and it will be covered. However, the bill, the last action was on February 28, 2020. And it was referred to the House Committee on Ways and Means, and it hasn't, no action has been taken since. But the really amazing, the really amazing thing about this bill is, even though it's kind of stalled because of this national emergency, it was just really interesting to see that they included state and National Guard. So this is really amazing, because the State Guard, the State Defense Forces are getting much more recognized and appreciated nationwide in the federal and the state level.
Right, right. So yeah, let's see where that goes, and we could always talk about that on the next podcast.
Yeah. So hopefully we will. I'm gonna try to have these podcasts do either bi-monthly or one time a month, depending on the news frequency. There's certain months that, state guards are just doing their normal drills. Like December is an interesting month. Pretty much all the state guards are having they do their monthly drill, but it's not as active because work and the holidays and such. So those months generally will probably be one podcast episode, when versus the summer or an emergency like this, where we're probably going to put out 2 per month, because there's so much news. I'm literally putting out 1 or 2 pieces of news a day, when I used to just put out 1 or 2 pieces a week. So it definitely is a lot of news to report. So we'll definitely get that to you guys in the next episode, and I hope you guys stay tuned. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor. We're pretty much every single podcast application that you can think of. So be sure to subscribe on your favorite one. And that does it for me. And do you want to take us out?
Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for your continued support. Keep up to date on what we're doing through State Defense Forces websites and Facebook, and we're constantly posting information there. So just again, thank you for your support, and everybody be safe, and speak to you soon.
Have a great one, guys.